This interview should have never existed. You have no idea how much I hesitated before hitting the record button. For years, I carried this secret like a weight stitched to my chest. What I saw, what I lived through. It's not for the faint of heart, not for those in a hurry. But today, for some reason that I may never fully understand, I decided to speak up. Maybe you think you've already heard similar stories, but no, because no one has ever dared to tell what I'm about to share. And what if I told you that there's no judgment at all, not even the one you pass on yourself? And what if, in the end, the biggest secret is that there is no secret? Before I go on, I want to ask you something. If any phrase, any shiver, any memory touches something inside you, go ahead and hit like, drop a comment, or subscribe. It's not just for the numbers. It's because when you interact, you create a real space here with me for the truth to come out. Now, listen and don't look away. Because after today, you won't be able to pretend like you didn't hear a thing. Have you ever felt like someone was watching you, even when you're alone? Have you ever had that sudden feeling in the middle of the night that the silence isn't empty? Or that voice that isn't quite a thought, isn't yours, but echoes within you like an old secret? I know. We've all felt that subtle discomfort at some point. The impression that there's something more, a presence, a message, a call. Sometimes it's just a chill down your spine. Other times it's a strange certainty that we are going through something we cannot explain. Have you ever wondered why? Why are we so good at pretending we don't feel? Sometimes I talk to people who say, it's just your imagination, Sylvia. You travel too far in your mind. But what if it isn't? What if that unease, that doubt is exactly the invitation? The invitation to look beyond the veil, beyond the routine, beyond what everyone pretends to believe. If you feel that, if you've ever wondered whether life is just this exhausting cycle, then know this, you're not alone. I am no different from you. People say I have gifts, but the truth is I was always haunted by the same questions, the same fears. You know that tired feeling that just won't go away, that sense of not belonging, as if you're a stranger even to yourself? I've wanted to give up. I've screamed inside, begged for answers, and felt furious at the silence. And yes, I've lost myself in my own ego. When the world started calling me sensitive, medium, I believed that maybe I was special. But do you know what I discovered? That the bigger the expectation, the harder the fall. That we pretend to have all the answers, but deep down we're terrified of lying to ourselves. I failed. Many times. I hurt the ones I loved, pushed away those who wanted to help, and let vanity build a wall between me and the truth. I'm here today without a mask. Not because I'm enlightened, but because I'm human. And only when we bleed do we learn to truly see ourselves. It all started on an ordinary night. I wasn't expecting anything. There was no lit candle, no prayer, no ritual. Just a fierce weariness, a desire to vanish into sleep and forget the world. But that night, sleep wasn't just sleep. It felt like falling into a silent abyss where time bends and the body disappears. The air was thick, gray. I saw without eyes, felt without skin. There was no floor, no ceiling, no walls. Just a strange density, an emptiness that pulsed as if breathing with me. I knew I was outside my body, but I didn't know where I was. It was a place with no name, no map, a territory between worlds. There, everything solid in me, ideas, memories, certainties, started to dissolve like smoke carried away by the wind. And for the first time, I understood what it truly means to be vulnerable, not even having the illusion of control. That's when I felt no, when I knew I wasn't alone. At first, it was just a presence. I didn't see a face, hear a name. It was as if the entire space was filled with intelligence, with a subtle attention that passed right through me. I tried to speak, but there was no mouth, no sound, just intention, just will. And then, without words, I knew someone or something had been watching me for a long time. It wasn't a threat, nor was it comfort. It was a mirror. It felt like facing everything I never wanted to admit. Images, memories, emotions. Everything came up without a filter, as if that presence was showing me, without judgment, who I really was inside. At the same time, a silence so deep enveloped me that I could feel every fiber of my soul vibrating. I tried to ask, what am I doing here? Why me? But there was no answer, just a kind of quiet compassion, an invitation to look fearlessly at what I always avoided. That's when I realized, Real contact isn't about bodies meeting. It's a fusion of truths, an exposure of what we run from every day. And there, without words, I knew I wasn't being judged. I was being seen. In that timeless space, I started to dive in. Not into a tunnel of light or into flowered fields, but into myself. I saw repeated scenes, old pains, resentments I swore I had overcome. It was as if every mistake, every harsh word, every cowardly silence came back surging before me. There was no one punishing me. It was just me, with myself. With every memory came a physical pain, as if every emotion I denied turned into a weight, a knot, a prison, and I realized there is no hell outside of us. True torment is a cycle. We hold on to what we can't forgive, what we can't accept, what we never had the courage to face. I saw people trapped in loops, reliving the same scenes, feeling the same guilt, unable to break free because they couldn't forgive themselves. The suffering came from clinging to our self-image, from the fear of being small, from wounded pride. There was no judge pointing a finger. There was only the reflection of what we refused to let go. Hell is made of silence and repetition, until someone chooses to really look. Then something changed. At the height of discomfort, when everything inside me screamed to run away, a brutal clarity hit me. I wasn't there to look for answers. I was there to face the truth, raw and real, without any embellishment. For years, I hid behind pretty words, comforting messages, the role of guide. But my essence got lost in that desire to please, to be accepted, to be admired. The ego, that silent imposter, fed on applause, followers, expectations. Before I knew it, I drifted away from what truly matters. The experience lived, not the rehearsed speech. There, in the heart of mystery, I understood the difference between content and essence. We might say everything is right, teach what we read in books, wear the mask of spirituality. But if the heart isn't open, if the silence isn't truly embraced, if humility isn't real, it's all empty. The biggest illusion is thinking that the role we play matters more than the truth. At that moment, I decided I no longer want to be a character in my own story. I want to be presence. And it was then that I felt, for the first time, the possibility of starting over. In that suspended space between what I was and what I could be, something unexpected happened. In the midst of my deepest shame, when I couldn't run away from myself any longer, I was enveloped by a sensation that is impossible to describe, a warmth and absolute acceptance, a love that asked nothing in return. It wasn't a human love, with conditions and full of demands. It was a deep, silent embrace that dissolved all my fears. I didn't need to apologize, nor justify my mistakes. In that moment, I realized everything I was most afraid to show was exactly what needed to be embraced. I felt that every part of me, even those I always rejected, was worthy of existence. It was as if someone or something was silently saying, "You are enough. You don't need to prove anything. Just be." And in that presence, I understood what it means to feel at home, even without a body, even without a name. The silence that once scared me became the cradle of my peace. I discovered that self-knowledge isn't about capturing more answers, but about accepting the mystery, trusting the process, and taking a deep breath in the face of what can't be controlled. At that moment, I was pure essence. And essence is love. Love that neither confines, demands, nor compares. Love that simply observes and embraces. When I returned from that space, I didn't come back with magic formulas, but some truths burned into me, like marks of fire. Maybe they'll work for you the way they did for me. First, the soul isn't a prize for doing everything right, nor a punishment for making mistakes. It's a vast field where everything can be transformed. Second, the ego isn't an enemy, but a strict teacher. It teaches through discomfort, through excess, through lack. The secret is not to fight it, but to observe it, learn from it, and even laugh at its traps. Third, your vibrational state doesn't depend on the outside, but on how willing you are to be honest with yourself. Fourth, karma is not punishment. It's a mirror. Everything you project comes back, not to punish you, but to show where it still hurts, where love is still missing. Fifth, fear is always the first veil. It protects you up to a point. Afterward, it becomes a prison. If I could give you one piece of advice, it would be, don't run away from your silence. The noise of the world only serves to delay the encounter with your truth. And finally, there's no salvation out there. Heaven and hell live at the same address, inside you. Everything changes when you stop running away from yourself. I know, maybe all of this sounds strange, too intense, or even unbelievable, but if any part of this journey echoed something inside you, if you've ever felt these fears or this kind of love, I invite you to not keep it to yourself. Share in the comments your experiences, your doubts, even your fears. We're not here to convince anyone. We're here to remind each other that we're not alone. If this video touched you, drop a like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, not out of vanity, but because every time you engage, you strengthen this space of truth, vulnerability, and healing for someone who really needs to hear it. Our community is built on stories, encounters, silences, and new beginnings. No matter where you are or how far you think you've come, we're just starting to remember who we really are. And the greatest adventure, the most real one, is the one that begins when we close our eyes and finally allow ourselves to feel. The journey doesn't end here. It's only just beginning. And now I stop. For the first time in a long while, I simply stop. I feel the silence after the storm of words, the strange calm of someone who finally dared to show their soul, raw, real, without any filter, without posing, without being afraid of looking ridiculous. If you've made it this far, know this: you are rare. Few have the courage to look so deep, to listen to the discomfort, to cross the barrier that guards the great truths. Maybe you're wondering, now what? What do I do with all this? How do I bring this experience into my life? How do I make sure I don't forget what touched me so deeply today? I don't have all the answers. I keep searching, stumbling, making mistakes, and trying again every single day. The only difference now is that I do it with more kindness. I've learned that there's no sudden enlightenment or magical leap. The miracle is waking up every day and choosing to be a little truer, a little more honest, a little more generous with yourself and with others. The rest is all about building. The rest is the journey. Maybe the great truth is never a final answer, but an endless invitation to feel, to live, to transform. And if you feel like talking, sharing your story, asking questions, doubting, or disagreeing, now's the time. Drop your thoughts in the comments, no matter the size or form. Your story might be just what someone on the other side needs to hear, so they don't give up. If you want me to keep sharing these intimate conversations, these journeys within, subscribe, hit the bell, and share this video with someone who needs an invisible hug. My mission now is no longer to be a guru or to have all the answers. It's about being a bridge. It's about being a witness. It's about being human, together with you. Thank you for walking with me this far. Promise me one thing. Promise that tonight, before you go to sleep, you'll close your eyes and ask yourself, what am I still running from? What inside me needs to be seen, heard, embraced? And then just listen. Listen to the silence. Listen to your own heart. The answer might come in a dream, a shiver, a memory, or simply in a sigh of relief. Subscribe to the channel and leave a like to get more stories like this. We're only beginning to remember who we are. And even if the world says otherwise, you are not alone. Until next time, in the same place where everything begins, inside you.